Okay, let me proceed then. So welcome guys. So we are starting with the module 4. So collections using Scala. Okay, let me proceed. The agenda for this topic would be, we will see what exactly the Scala collections is all about. So what exactly the Scala collections are, and we'll see Scala collection packages. And Scala collections are broadly categorized into immutable collections and mutable collections. So under immutable collections, we have certain collections like list, map, set, and queue. And under mutable collections, we have array, map, set, and queue. So we will see all these topics. Okay. First, let us understand what do you mean by collections. So what do you mean by collections is, collections are nothing but the container which actually holds the data. Just like we have seen array. What is an array? Array is a container which holds data. Similarly, array also falls under collections. So collections are nothing but a container which actually stores the data. Okay, these containers can be like an array, list, set, map, queue, etc. So there are different types of a container which actually holds the data. So in Scala basically provides you a very rich set of collection library, just like in Java. So Scala also comes with a lot of, very rich set of collection library. We will see that. Now, this point is very important. Scala collections basically are categorized into two things. One is mutable collections and another one is immutable collection. This is a very important point. So basically Scala collections are basically categorized into two things. One is mutable collections and another one is immutable collections. All collection classes are basically found under the base package, what we call it as Scala.collection. Okay, this is very important. All the collection related classes are found in a package called as Scala.collection package, or one of its sub packages. So basically the base package of all the collections are Scala.collection. Most of the collection classes needed exist in three variants, I can say. One is you have Scala.collection, and I told you that there are basically two types of collections. One is mutable collections and another one is immutable collections. So all the classes which belongs to mutable collections are present in Scala.collection.mutable. All the classes which is responsible for creating immutable collections are present in Scala.collection.immutable. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always raise your hand. Okay, let me proceed. Now, by default, Scala always picks immutable collections. This is very important. Whenever you try to create any collection, for example, if I try to create a collection of type list, so by default, list will be picked from a package called Scala.immutable collections. Okay, so for instance, if you just write set without any prefix or without having imported set from somewhere else, you get an immutable set because the set will be imported from a immutable package, Scala.collection.immutable package. This is very important. Gangadhar, just hold on. I'll just finish this topic and then I'll.
No, sir, it's no worries. Like actually, I raised the hand. Actually, Kapil was asking to join.
Okay,
so
fine. Fine. Okay. So to get the mutable default version, you need to explicitly say Scala.collection.mutable. As I told you, by default, whenever you create any collection of type list or set, this classes will be imported from Scala.collection.immutable. So if I want to get the mutable version of the let's say list and set, you have to import Scala.collection.mutable, and then only you will be able to use those classes. Okay, so in Scala, collections may be strict or lazy. So what I meant with lazy is, lazy collections have elements that may not consume memory until they are accessed. So for example, ranges. So we have seen one important property in Scala, lazy evaluation, right? So similarly, we also have lazy collections. We will see all those things. So lazy collections basically have elements that may not consume memory until they are accessed. So you may have the data, but until and then you don't access, the memory will not be consumed. Okay, let me proceed. Any questions if you have, you can raise your hand. Okay, now, so first let us see a Scala.collection package. As I told you, that the root package of all your collection classes is scalar.collection. So we have three variants, as I told you. One is scalar.collection, and another one is scalar.collection.immutable, and another one is scalar.collection.mutable. So we have three variants of collection packages. So I told you that this scalar collection basically logically divided into mutable collections and immutable collections. So immutable collections is part of scalar.collection.immutable package. Mutable collections are part of scalar.collection.mutable package. Okay, let me proceed. So scalar collections begins with the root interface, or we call it as traits in scalar. So if you look into the scalar collection hierarchy, we have a traversable trait. Just like in Java, we have iterables, right? Similar that you have another one called as traversable. And then you have iterable, then you have iterable. Okay. Now, if you see these collections are basically categorized as shown as sequence. Broadly, it is categorized as sequence, set, and map. This is just the hierarchy how they have defined the collections. Okay. So sequence is basically further divided into index to sequence and linear sequence. These are, you can assume it like, abstract classes which have general implementation for both mutable and immutable collections. These are considered as an abstract classes kind of things, which generally have the common implementations of both mutable and immutable collections. Similarly, the set is further divided into sorted set and bit set. And similarly, the map is divided into this. Further sorted map extends the map. This is a general hierarchy of your scalar.collection, just like how we have in Java. This is how they have designed. Okay. Now, let us see scalar.collection.package, same thing. Let me just skip the slide. Okay. Scalar.collection.immutable package. So what is immutable? As we know, one second. One second. It is scalar.collection. I've interchanged the slide. Okay, I've interchanged the slide. Please look at this. A mutable collection can be updated. What is a mutable collection in general? A mutable collection is a collection which generally can be updated or extended in place. For example, if you want to, change the any value in a container, or if you want to add, or if you want to remove the elements from the collection, the mutable collections allows you. So this is scalar.collection.mutable. Okay, so these are the set of things what we get as part of the mutable. These are the set of classes. Similarly, we have immutable. Actually, this the heading is wrong. So by contrast, immutable means it cannot be changed. So one important point to remember, since it is immutable, it is not that we can't add or remove or do any kind of an update operation. It is not that way. Please look at the point here. You still have an operations that simulates, like, you can addition, removals, or updates, but this is a very important point. But those operations will create a new collection and leave the old collections unchanged. This is very important point. That means if you create any kind of an immutable collections, even if you want to perform any operations like removal or updates, still it will allow you, but it will try to create a new collection which will leave the old collection as unchanged. Okay, this is very important point. Okay, now any questions so far? Okay, now let's get into the programming and then you will understand further. Now, one important point here to note that basically Scala comes with a separate IDE. Can you see this? I've just gone to Google and I've just typed Scala IDE. Now, there is two ways to use a Scala integrated with Eclipse. One is you can have a normal Eclipse and you can download a Scala plugin for Eclipse. That is one way of doing it. Or there is another way is Eclipse Scala people, they have already integrated Scala to the Eclipse and they are giving it as a bundle, what we call it as Scala IDE. So in this, if you use Scala IDE, you need not install any plugins for Scala. So it is recommended that you use this Scala IDE. So if you just go to Google and just type Scala IDE, can you see this? The first link, whatever you get. So you can simply click on this. So what Scala IDE they have done is they have tried to install Scala plugin for Eclipse and they're giving it as a bundle. So I would recommend just type Scala IDE in Google and just go to this website and you can simply download the Scala IDE. It is also just like a normal Eclipse, only thing Scala has been integrated to the Eclipse. By default, Eclipse will not come with Scala. Okay, so I've already downloaded Scala IDE. I've already downloaded Scala IDE. It is just like the normal Eclipse, and I've already clicked. And do remember, your Scala IDE takes a little bit of memory when compared to your normal Eclipse. So it may be certain times a little slower, but yeah, I have to get used to it. Okay, now, so I already have a Scala workspace. Now let me create a new project. Okay, so file, new. As I told you, we will be using Maven based project. So I will click on file, new, other. I will select Maven project. As usual, I will select Maven project. And as we know that, the Maven based project, you will have group ID, artifact ID, or versions, all those things. I'll just skip all those artifact archetype selection because I want only the simple project. So I will be using this checkbox to skip the archetype. So if I don't select this checkbox and if I click on next, as we have already seen, it will ask you to select the archetype. Based on different projects, you'll have different archetypes. So as of now, I will be skipping this because simple project is sufficient. So I'll be checking this checkbox and I'll be clicking on next. And we have already seen a Maven topic. So a particular project is uniquely identified with group ID, artifact ID, and the version, right? So the group ID, for example, I'll just give com.npm training.bigdata, and artifact ID, let's say I'll just give module 4 Scala collections. Yeah, Ankit, go ahead.
Yeah, Naveen, can we use IntelliJ IDEA?
It is possible. I have chosen Eclipse as my choice. So definitely you can use it, IntelliJ also.
Okay. Okay.
Oh. So I'll click on finish. Oh, the project is getting built. We'll just wait for some time. Yeah, Ankit, go ahead. You had some questions?
It's me, Vinay, Naveen.
No, Ankit also has raised. That's the reason.
No, Naveen, for this I have raised.
Okay, can you just lower your hand, Ankit? Yeah, Ankit, Vinay, go ahead.
This mutable is used during the times when there is a fixed collection, like
Correct.
when we don't want to
Modify.
reuse it again, or else there will be a memory, like too much of memory will be
No,
used.
let's assume you wanted a collection with fixed values.
Okay.
Then I go with mutable, which will improve the performance.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, right. Okay, now please observe, this is a very important thing here. Now I've created a Maven based project and please observe this, it has created M with J there. Okay, so as we know, J basically stands for Java here in this context. So now I have to create a Scala there, correct? So what you can do is, by default, Maven will create for Maven based, it's just creates a Java based Maven project. So what you have to do is, you have to add a Scala nature for this. How do you add a Scala nature is, you can simply right click the project and can you see this, you have something called as configure here. So if you just hover your mouse over configure, you can see an option called add Scala nature. So as soon as you select this add Scala nature, this J will be converted into S. So now it is basically a Maven based Scala project. Okay, this is very important. So that is how we start when we create a Spark based applications out of Scala language. So this is how we do. Okay, now the next thing what you have to do, all these things you have to do the very first time and only once. Now if you expand this SRC, and can you see this, still we have Java there as the source folder. Okay, and similarly test, we have source folder as Java here. So what you have to do is, you have to rename this Java to Scala. So what you can simply do is, you can simply click on this and you can simply press F2 and you can just type Scala. Okay, because it's not Java, we are doing it Scala, so you have to rename it. So press F2 and just rename it to Scala here. Now, so now if you see, there's one more important point to remember. Let me go to the build path. So you can right click this and click on properties, and you can select the normal, let's say Java build path, because Scala is a JVM based language. Now, can you observe this very important here, that Scala library it is using 2.12. This is very important. Along with JRE library, it is using 1.8. Along with that, it is using Scala library 2.12. The reason is why Java is required is, as we know that Scala sits on top of your Java only. I mean to say it is also a JVM based language. Okay, so that JVM will not be part of once you install Scala. You have to install Java to work with Scala. So that is why it is also using JRE and well as Scala here. Now, can you see this two build path entries are missing? So if you click on this very carefully, now when we renamed, actually it should have taken, but now it didn't take it as Scala. So what you can simply do is all these missing entries, you can delete it. All these missing entries, you can simply remove. See, this is missing. You can simply remove, and you can add a folder, whatever you want. Now, in our case, Scala is a source folder. Scala is a source folder. You can click on OK and apply and close. With this, the Scala project is successful. Any questions here before we proceed and start writing code? So is the steps clear, or do you want me to tell again? Okay, so I assume there's no doubts. Let me proceed. So let me create a package. I'll just create the package com.npm training.examples. So for example, I am just keeping it as immutable collection. So first let me explore about immutable collections. Okay, so under immutable, I will explore about list. Okay, so we will explore various things about the immutable collection. Say for example, list, and all the code which is related to the list, I will keep it in this package. For example, all the code related to a map, I will keep it in one more sub package called map, so that we will logically segregate like this, so that it will be easy for you. Okay, let me proceed. So the first program, let's create immutable collections. So if you remember, I told you that whenever you create any collection, by default, it will be part of mutable one. So now if I want to create any collection which is part of immutable, you have to explicitly, hello, you guys are there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What I was telling you is by default, all the classes which you import, let's say list, all those things will be part of immutable collections. So if I want mutable version, I have to explicitly import it from scala.collection.mutable. So as of now, I'm exploring about immutable one. Okay. So no need to explicitly import. So let me do it. Click on new. I will try to create a Scala object here. So let me name the class. I'll just give step by step _01. Let's say I'll just give constructing list. Okay, I'll just give constructing list. So as you see that, it is slightly slower. Yeah, obviously Scala IDE requires a little bit good amount of RAM. So you may not see as performant as your Eclipse. Yeah, now if you see this, it has created an object. So let me create a main method. So as we all know that how to create a main method, you can simply press main and control space. So it is taking some time, let it load. Okay, control space. Okay, you have to select main method. Okay, now let me create a list. Okay, the simplest and easy way to create a list, for example, I'll just give a list name as languages is equal to, the easiest way to create a list is with list. I told you this is, we call it as a constructor notation, or if you remember, I told you that this list will call an apply method. Okay, so I will just give some values, C++, Java, and let me give some values, Scala. So I've simply created a list, and let me print that list. Println, I'll just give languages. This is the simplest way of creating a list. So let me right click and execute the program. Let it build. It is taking some time. Yeah. So you can see the values. Now look at this. There's another way. For example, I've created a list. I've created a list of all string. You can also specify the type, just like how we do in Java generic strikes. You can also specify, you can also create a list by specifying the type. For example, this piece of a code can be written like this. Same code. Let's say, well, this case, I will try to create some numbers, for example. This also be there. Let me create some numbers. Okay, numbers. Now you can also specify the type. This val numbers is of type list, which holds int values. See, this is how you can specify. Okay, so what you're saying here, numbers, which is of type list, which holds int values. Okay, so you can do this list of some numbers, and you can print the numbers. Now, if I execute this piece of a code, you'll be able to see the numbers. Okay, now let me show you another syntax of creating a list, which is not generally widely used, but yeah, sometimes they may ask you in interview questions. For example, let me create a list. I'll just name the list as languages1. Now please observe the syntax here. The first element, let's say I'm holding it C. Please look at the syntax. Syntax is slightly confusing here. Colon, colon. And the next value in a list. Syntax would be slightly confusing, but you have to by heart. The third value is Java, and colon, colon for the empty list. I think everything is closed. This is another variant of, actually creating a list, which is not widely used, but yeah, occasionally they may ask in interviews. Syntax is very confusing there. Yeah, let me execute. Can you see this? It has printed C, C++, and Java. So this is another variant generally you come across while you create a list. There is another variant also. Let me show you. Okay. For example, easy way to express this. There's another way. You can simply do this. C colon colon C++ colon colon Java colon. I'll tell you what you mean by nil. Just hold on. Okay. This is another variant of creating a list. So let me execute this program. Yeah, can you see this? We got 4 values. So C, C++, and Java. So this is how you construct a list. These are the different variants available in Scala for constructing a list. However, the simple approach would be these two. We very rarely see creating a list with this syntax. There is no change of creating a list with this way or this way, but Scala provides you another way of creating a list with these kind of a complex syntax also. So occasionally any of the open source projects or people who are highly experienced as a Scala developers, they occasionally use the syntax just to use the features of a language. Okay. Any questions? Can I proceed to the basics of list operations? Okay, I see there's no questions. Let me proceed. So let me create another object. So I'll go step by step. So I'll give you all these programs _02. I'll just name it as basic operations. MEIN control space. Okay, now let me create some list. So the quick way of creating the list, as I told you, you can use a constructor notation. So I'm using the constructor notation to create a list. Let's say with some values like February, March, April, and let me store with some values. May. Okay, let me just change this. Now, so let's assume we have certain attributes for the list. For example, you have month dot, for example, you have an attribute size. So this will give you the size. So in our case, the size of the list is 4. Let it execute. Oh, once again, it is executing the previous program. So you can right click, run as scale application. So it is giving 4. Now let me explore some of the operations. For example, as we know, how to access a list is basically an index based. So if you want to access a list, we can access through an index. So I'll just put it in comment. Accessing elements via index. So what you can simply do is println month. Please observe this, the syntax is the parenthesis there, 0th index. See, this will give you the first element, that is February. It will give you February. Just like in Java, if you try to access an element beyond its size, you will get index out of bound exception. Here also the same thing applicable. For example, if you try to access beyond its size, month of if you access 10, so you will get the exception. Can you see this? You got index out of bounds exception. As usual as in your Java, the same thing also throws you exception. Now let me show you a little complex one. We will show you how to prepend elements to the beginning of the list. Beginning of the list. So please observe the syntax here. The list name is month. So what I can do here is, so as I told you that it is immutable collection. So immutable collection will not modify the original collection. So any modification you do, let's say in this case, I'm trying to add some elements to the beginning of the list. So what this will do, it will try to create a new collection. It will not modify the existing collection. So I'll just create one variable months1. So now the collection month dot, so I'm trying to prepend some elements. So dot plus colon. So you have to by-add this of, I'm trying to add Jan to the beginning of the list. Now if I print this, so dot plus colon, once again, anyhow you got array of bound exception. Let me just remove this. So can you see this? The January got prepended and to the list and it gave me a new list. However, if you see the original list, can you see this? It is unmodified. So that because we are creating immutable collection. So immutable collection, it will not modify, right? Let's see, so you have to by-heart this syntaxes. So if you want to add elements, if you want to prepend elements to the beginning of the list, if you see, how do you remember this? Can you see this? When you say plus after dot, so dot is a way to call a method, right? When you say plus, that means you're trying to add the element, to the starting position. Say for example, if you want to add elements to the end of the list, so look at the syntax. So for example, if you want to append elements to the end of the list, so what we saw here, dot plus comes before, plus comes immediately. So what happens? The January will be added to the starting position. Now, if you want to add elements to the end of the list, what you can do is, I'll just create one variable months2 is equal to month dot, please understand the syntax, dot colon plus. That means I'm trying to add an element to the last position. So what I'll do here, I will try to add June. I'll try to add June. Sorry, this is not months, this is month. Okay, now when I print this, you'll be able to see for the original list, that is February, March, April, and May, I am trying to add June there. So this is how you prepend elements to the beginning of the list and you append elements to the end of the list. Let us see some more methods. For example, there is a method, there's an attribute, there's a method by name head. What it will do, let's see that. Okay, so head of the list. You see this, what this will do. So let me go with months dot head. Month. What do you have in month? We have February, March, April. So what I do, month dot head. Now let me execute this. Please observe this. So in this month you had February, March, April and May. So what is considered as head is the first element is considered as head. Okay, so the first element is considered as head. For example, there's another method called last. So last will give you the last element of the month list. For example, can you see this? Let me do println month dot last. So this will give you the last element. So in this case, the last element is May. Okay. Now there is also a way to access. For example, let's assume, I want to access the elements apart from the first one. So we have a concept of tail. So what this tail says is this is the head and rest of the values is considered as tail. So if I want to access not the first record, other records, then we can simply invoke tail method. So the tail here means in the records, the first record is considered as head and remaining records are considered as tail. So I can also do that. So let me access this, print ln month dot. So what do we have in month? Let me print that month so that will not get lost. Let me print that month. So month dot, I will try to access tail. So what this tail will do, it will try to fetch the values apart from the first record. Okay, so it tries to, this is the head and rest of the things is generally we call it as a tail. Okay, let me execute this. Can you see this? Apart from February, it tried to fetch that March, April and May. Okay, similarly, just like how we had to fetch the records apart from the first record, similarly we also have a method to fetch apart from the last value. You also have a method. If I want to fetch all the values apart from the last value, you also have a method. For example, there's a method by name, if I remember, it is init or something. Init. Let me check once. Yeah, init. Can you see this? For our original list, you have February, March, April, and May. So this tail method gave me, apart from the first element, it gave me all the elements. Whereas init method, what it will do, apart from the last element, it gives me all other values. Clear? Any questions? Here, let's say, for example, there's another important point. You can create an empty list. For example, if you want to create an empty list, you can simply do this. This is an empty list. This is one way to create an empty list. In Scala, there are 2 to 3 ways to create an empty list. This is one way to create an empty list. For example, if I write list.head, list.head. So what this head will do, head will give you the first element. So right now you don't have any elements in the list. If you try to access head on an empty list, you will get an exception. No such element exception. What I meant with this is this head method will be applicable, or this head method will be available only when you have elements on the list. This is very important. That is why it is saying no such element exception. That means this head method is not visible for the list. Yeah, I'm back. I think there was a lag with the internet connection. I'm back. Okay. So now observe this is very important. This head method, previously it was available. This month is also a list. Correct? This month is also a list. Whereas now if I try to invoke head method, it says no such element exception. That method is there, right? It should not say no such element exception. This point is very important. This head method or this head property will be available only when you have a non-empty list. If you have an empty list, this head property will not be available. That is what I wanted to tell you. Okay. Similarly, there is also called as last. So last also will not be available for an empty. So it will give you same error, exception, no such element, exception. And there are certain things like, you can't invoke list.tail or list.init on an empty list. It will throw you like, let's say, unsupported operation exceptions. For example, you see this, I'm creating an empty list. This is one way to create an empty list, and I'm invoking tail. Tail is available. Okay, tail is available, but when I
unable to hear you.
I'm sorry. Now is it audible?
Sir, we are not able to hear you properly, sir.
Oh, I'm not sure why. Just hold on. Yeah, now is it better?
Yeah.
Others, can I get a confirmation, please?
When you explain something about the head and tail, like.
Okay, I'll repeat it. Now it is audible, right?
Yes, sir. Now it is fine.
Okay. Guys, can you confirm me whether you're able to see the screen and my voice is audible? Because there was a disconnect, suddenly it got disconnected. Can anybody confirm me?
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Oh,
Voice
was
is
it?
also breaking.
Okay, just hold on. I think there's slightly a lag with the internet connection. Just wait for just
We're
a
not
few
able to see the
seconds.
screen as well.
Yeah, is it fine now?
Sorry, sir, your voice is breaking.
Still it is breaking, is
We
it?
didn't get what you said that one, sir.
Okay, now at least it is audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it is fine.
Okay. Others, everybody, it is fine, right? Can I proceed?
Your voice is still breaking, sir.
Okay. Now what I was telling is this head method is available only for non-empty list. For example, if you try to invoke this head method for the empty list, you will get an exception. So please observe this. It says, when I execute this piece of a code, it says, no such element exception. So even though this head method is available for the entire list, it says no such element exception. Why is that? Because you are trying to call an head method on an empty list. When you try to call an head method on empty list, you will get an exception called no such element exception. That means this particular head is available. This head method should be called only on a non-empty list. That is what I wanted to tell you. Similarly, for example, let's say you have a tail. So when I execute this tail, you will also get an exception. Why? Because we don't have any elements on a list. So you will get unsupported operation exception. That means you can't invoke methods like tail, init. So when you try to invoke a methods on an empty list, you will get this unsupported operation exception. So these two things you have to remember. Okay. Any other questions before I proceed further? Okay. So I see. Yeah, Vinay, go ahead.
Sir, when we need to add an element to the list, that is the method, sir. Plus is the method to add it, or we have a dot add something like that
Which one
to
you
add
mean
a
to say?
element. Yeah, is the only method to
Can
add
you see
any
this?
element.
We don't have. This is you try this. You will understand. There is a documentation, but this is some sort of a it internally uses string builder, but the ways to add is using this. Okay, so just like in Java we have add method, you can simply here you have dot is a method call, and this is a method colon plus.
Okay.
Here.
Okay, sir.
Okay, let me proceed now. So let me explore some more operation. Yeah, Vinay, go ahead. Sorry, Murli, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So I see I can add elements from the beginning or at the end. Is there any option to add it in the middle of the list?
Yeah, we will see that. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, right. And do remember, now I'm trying to create an immutable collection. Okay. So immutable means you can't. What do you mean by immutable? Anybody? Once created, it can't be changed. So any modification I do, for example, I'm trying to add, or I'm trying to, prepend some elements, all those things will try to create a new collection. Let's explore some more operations. Underscore 03, I'll just give it as, let's say, again, let me explore some of the operations, some more operations. Okay, let me create a main method. Okay, so let me create two lists now. List one is equal to a quick way of creating a list is one comma, just create some elements in the list. For example, I'll create one more list. Val list 2 is equal to list of some numbers 4, 5, 6. Now look at this. Now I will show you how to concatenate multiple lists. Concatenate multiple lists. So I'll just create one variable list 3. As when you concatenate, it tries to create a new list, right? So how to concatenate is you can do list 1. Can you see this? Colon, colon, colon. So this is how you concatenate a list. So I'm trying to concatenate list 1 with list 2. So you have to by heart this syntax. Print ln of list 3. So now if you see this here, it will show you the concatenated version. So it is executing the previous program. So let me execute the program, right click, run as Scala application. So can you see this? It got concatenated. I'm trying to explain different operations available on a list. Later you can explore other methods what is available on a list. I'm explaining all the important things. Now look at this. There's another way to do that. For example, let me do this. Let me create another list, val list 4. What I will do, I will try to create an empty list. So the quick way to create an empty list, you can do this. For this empty list, I will try to add a new list. So in this new list, let's assume I'll have some values. So what in this piece of a code we are doing? I have an empty list. For an empty list, I'm trying to add these values. Okay. So now I will just print this. Print ln of list 4. Now if I execute this, you will see for an empty list, I am trying to add 1, 2, 3. There's another way to do this. I'm just explaining you different options here. Well, let me create another list. List 5 is equal to list of some numbers. List of some numbers. Then I'm trying to add another list to it. Similarly, I can concatenate another list. I'm sorry for the background voice, guys. I'm creating another list. So let me add some values, 7, 8, 9. So let me print this. Control F11. Okay, so this is another variant to add an elements, concatenate, the list. For example, see this, there is another way to do this. Let's see some more operations. Let's say it has a lot of methods for performing, let's say reverse, all those things. Let me show you one example for reverse. So we have a list 1. So what I can do is println list 1 dot, there is a method by name reverse. So this will reverse a list for you. Can you see this? 3, 2, 1. Like this, we have lots and lots of method on the list here. Okay. Any questions here so far? Let us explore some more operations so that we'll get comfortable. Underscore 0, 4. I'll just go in the order. I'll just give it as, for example, I'll just give intermediate operations. Intermediate operations. Let me create a main method. Okay, let me create a list. Val list is equal to list of some values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, some values. Now it has one method. Please look at this. It has a method by name take. Okay, so what this take will do, please look at this list take of 3. Look at this, what it will do. Right click, run as scale application. So what it will do is, for the given list, it will try to take the first 3 elements. So the first 3 elements is 1, 2, and 3. So with this take, you can take how many values you want from the list. For example, this is a very important interview question. For example, if you try to take a value from a list beyond its size, for example, that means the given value, whatever you're trying to give here, if it exceeds beyond its size, for example, the size is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, correct? If I try to access 10, what happens is it simply tries to get all the values. It simply tries to fetch all the values because it has only 7, but you're trying to ask, give me 10. You don't have 10 values, so it gives you the complete the elements from the list. Similar like take, we also have something called as drop. List drop of 2. So you can also give this syntax, or you can also give this syntax. It's fine. So what it will do is, from the given list, it tries to drop the first 2 elements. So that is 1 and 2. It tries to drop the first 2 elements, and then it gives you the remaining values from the list. I'm clear with this? Similarly, here also what happens, if the n value, if it is greater than the length, then for example, here we have 7. If I try to give a value, greater than the available, then let's see what happens. Println, I'm trying to drop 100. So if you see this, we don't have 100, we have only 7. In that case, please observe this, what happens here. It tries to give you an empty list. This is very important. Okay, if you try to give the value greater than the available during your drop method, it will try to create an empty list. While on take method, if you try to give a n value greater than the available size, what it will do is it will give you all the values. Okay. Now let us see some more operations here. Println. Now there's another operation. These are very frequently used operations. There is something called a split. Split at, if I remember, split at. So now what I do on split at, let me say I will split it at 3. You see what happens here. So what it does is, one second, what is that? One braces is missing. Let me execute this. Now if you see here, what it does is, on the list, if I say split at 3, so it will take 1, 2, 3, and it will create another list. And remaining values, it tries to create another list. This is very important. For example, if you try to give 2, it will try to create a list for the first 2 elements as one list, and remaining values as another list. So if you have any use case where you want to split, you can go ahead and use these functions. Yeah, Vinay, go ahead.
Sir, then if you use a split, it will be a list of lists, or it will be how to catch.
It is a tuple. So if you see this, it is a tuple. We will see what is tuple just for some time. This is a tuple. In Scala, we have another container. What we call it is a tuple.
Okay.
So tuple is something surrounded with braces.
Okay.
That is why if you observe for other things, it was giving it as a list.
Okay.
So here it is not giving a list. This is a tuple. So in Scala collections, you have something called as tuple also.
Okay.
Okay. For example, I'll just show you, since you asked me, I'll just show you what is tuple. So the tuple is something like this. This is a tuple. Tuple is also a container which can hold fixed data of different type. For example, I can have one, and let's say I will have admin. This is fixed. You can't modify. Now, if I want to access the first value of the tuple, you can do t._1. This will give you the first value, that is 1. t._2. This will give you the second value of the tuple, that is admin. We will see all those things again.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So understand the split is returning you a tuple. Okay. Right. Look at this. Let's explore some more methods. All these methods are very important methods, and we use it quite frequently. Now let's assume you have a list. I'll just name the list as list2, a list containing another list. Say for example, it can assume it is a 2-dimensional list, a list having another list, 1, 2, first row, second row, and let's say third row. Let's assume you have like this. Okay. Now, please observe this. There is a method by name flatten. List2 dot flatten. So what this will do, you see, it will try to flatten the list. For the given list, it tries to flatten the list. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. I think this Scala IDs are occupying my entire RAM. Just give me 1 minute. I'll just restart and then I'll come. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Yeah, guys, I think I'm back. So what I was telling you is this flatten. So given the list of list, what this flatten will do is, as the name says, it tries to flatten to one single list. It tries to flatten to one single list. Okay. Now let's explore some more methods. Okay, this is very important. All these methods, they may ask you an interview question. Can you explain some of the methods you have used in the Scala collection library? Because Scala is not you don't get Scala developers as much as Java developers. So these are the quite common questions what they generally ask you. Say for example, let me create one variable list 4. Okay, let me create one list. I'll just store it in one variable, list of some values. Okay, now please look at this. I'm invoking a method zip here. Please look at this. I'm trying to zip with another list. This is very important. Okay, let me reduce some values. 1, 2, 3, I'll just give. Can you see this? A list, I am trying to invoke a zip method to another list. Let's see what happens here. Okay, for example, let me give 1, 2, 3. Now please see, look at this, what happens here. So I have a list here. I'm trying to zip with another list. Okay, now let me execute this. Let's see what happens here. This is a very important interview question also. Control F11. So when I do this, what happens? Please look at this. It created a list with tuples. Now what it did is, you have a list. I'm trying to zip with another list. What it created is, it created a list with tuple. So tuple is basically, I told you, it's just a container which holds some value in the form of a key and value pair. So this is a key and this is a value. So what happened, from the first list, it took it as a key, and from the second list, the first value took it as a value. Can you see this? This is a key and this is a value. Similarly, this is a key and this is a value. Okay, similarly, this is a key and this is a value. So zip method, what it will do is combining two lists, the first element, it will try to take a key from the first list, and from the second list will take the first element as a value, and it created a tuple for you. So zip method will create a list with tuples. So the first element will be from the first list as a key, and the first element from the second list as a value. Okay, just like we have the zip method, we also have another method called unzip. So it will just do opposite of this. For example, let's see one more scenario here. Let's assume, let's say that in the first list you have more values when compared to the second list, for example. Okay, now if you see here, the first list basically has more values when compared to the second list. Let us see how the zip method will work. Okay, let us see how the zip method will work. Let me print this. Control F11. Now in this case, if you see, whatever the available values are there, it will only take those things. So can you see this 1, 2, 3. For 4 and 5, we don't have anything else. So it has removed those things. Clear? So I can try with different combinations, like this is less and this is more, and see what happens. All those things you can try to. Now I wanted to explain you unzip here. For example, list 5 basically contains 3 elements. Each element is of type tuple. Now what I do, I will try to unzip. So opposite of zip, unzip. So list 5 dot unzip. I'll just keep unzip. Now if I execute this, please observe this. Can you see this? It returned me an original one for me. Can you see this? It returned me a tuple. It returned me a tuple with the first element of the tuple is list of 1, 2, 3. And the second element of the tuple is 1, 2, 3 in characters. Clear? Now, just like in Java, you have a way to convert a list into arrays, all those concepts we have here. For example, let's say you have a list. I'll just name the list as n. Let's assume I have some list of some values. So it has a method by name toArray. So what it does is it tries to convert a list into an array representation. So if at all, if you want to convert a list into an array representation, you can simply do this. Now I can simply print this list. Now, if you see the value of n here, it shows you 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, okay. Now, yeah. Can anybody tell me why are you not getting 1, 2, 3, 4? Instead, you're getting some sort of an hexadecimal value here. Anybody?
Since n is an object.
Rather than object, yeah, it is a reference. Correct? So obviously in Java also, right? Whenever you create an array and if you try to print, you don't get the value, which just prints the reference. Correct? Okay. So for that, if I want to show you the values, I can use a normal for loop, or I'll just give en, let's say n. I can use a enhanced for loop to print the elements. Control F11. So I'll be able to iterate all those values 1, 2, 3, 4. What is
Print
wrong
E,
with
no,
you?
sir.
Sorry, E. I'm sorry. You'll be able to see 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, like this, we have different methods available on the list. Let's show me. Let me show you some more examples. Okay. So in this case, let's perform some of the complex operations. Okay, I click new. Just give scalar object underscore 04 underscore. Let me just give advanced operations. This is very, very important. So this is a very important topic. So focus on this topic. Why I'm telling you it is important is your Apache Spark uses collections, Scala's collection API. This is very important. That means if you are very good in Scala's collection API, you are good in Apache Spark, because Apache Spark, the core of the Apache Spark is RDDs. RDDs uses the Scala's collection API only. So if you are well versed with your Scala collection API, you are very good in your Spark core, that is RDDs. This is very important. So that is why you have to concentrate more on your collection API on your Scala. Now, what I do, for example, let me create one method. Val list, I'll just give list of some values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, list of some values. Now what I do, please observe this. This list has a method called map method. This is the API which we'll be using to write Apache Spark core applications using RDDs. So the reason I told you that the RDDs uses Scala's collection API. So if you're good in Scala's collection API, the same API is used for building your Spark applications. Only thing is it will execute on multiple machines, I mean distributed fashion. Okay. So now if you see this, what am I doing? List, it has a method called map method, very, very important. Okay. So let's assume you have some list of values. Let's assume you have some list of values. Okay. For example, let's assume you have some list of values. Let's assume you have a list. You have some list of values, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's assume you have some list of values. Now what I want to do is, on this list, I want to map into something else. For example, what this map will do is it will iterate each element of the list. Please remember this, it is very important. What this map method will do is, this map method will iterate each element of the list. And whatever method you pass to the map method, for example, I try to add one new element. For example, that is a function which I pass to the map. If you remember, I told you, what is high order functions? High order functions are the functions which takes functions as arguments, correct? Map is one such high order function. That means map method takes a function as argument. This is very important. So I was telling you high order function, right? Scala uses a lot of high order functions. One such function, one such method is map method. So this map method takes function as argument. Whatever function you pass to this map method, that will be applied for every element of an collection. This is very important. Any questions here before I proceed? It's like we are starting with Spark now. Try to understand this. I'll repeat it again. Let's say you have a collection, and Scala collection as library has a lot of high order methods. What is high order methods? I've already explained you. High order methods are the method which takes functions as argument and returns functions as functions. Correct? So one of the method is map method. This map method takes a function as argument. Any function you pass to this map method, that particular function will be invoked, will be called for every element of an collection. For example, if I pass a function to the map method, I'll pass a function to add a number. For the given number, it will add a number. So what it will do? So for the given number is 1, it will add 1. So it will return 2. So the given element is 2, I'm trying to add 1. So it will return 3. So the function is, for the given element, I'm trying to add 1. Correct? So that is the function I'm passing, increment by 1. Okay. So any function you pass, it will act for every element, whatever function you have passed. That is what I'm trying to show you now. Any questions before I proceed? Okay, let me proceed. Now please look at this. List.map. List.map, I am passing a function. If you remember in my functional programming, we have seen how to pass a function, right? So I'm passing a function. So E, let's say E into, let's say I will just add. Can you see this? This is a function. If you remember in my Scala programming, functional programming, this is how we created a function. So a function, I'm passing a function to it for every element. So the E value for the first element will be 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So the E value will be 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So now if I execute this piece of a code, can you see this? Okay, let me execute, right click, run as Scala application. So if you see this, for every element, if I want to perform some operations, can you see this? I'm passing a function. So what is this function? For the given E, he tries to add 1. So what is E in this first case? For every iteration, the value of E will be, let's say first iteration, the value of E is 1. For the second iteration, the value of E is 2. For the third iteration, the value of E is 3. Similarly, it goes on. So what this map method will do is, for every element in a collection, it tries to call this function. And E will be the value. E will be the first value, second value for the each iteration. Is that clear? Any questions here? I'm expecting more questions here. This is the core of your Apache Spark. This is a stepstone to write Spark applications. Yeah, Gangadhar, go ahead.
Sir, can I take the value from earlier iteration to the next iteration?
Which one? No, it is, if you remember, functions are pure. Now you can chain it. That is definitely possible. For example, all those things I will show you in Spark again, okay? Because Spark returns an RDD. But here, if you see again, let me invoke a map method. So what this will do is E into 2. So this is what we call it as a function chaining. Again, I will explain you in Spark. Now, if you see this, this is what you asked, right?
Yes, sir. What I'm asking is, okay, suppose the first iteration I'll get the value as 2.
I did that only. See, the first iteration, the value of E is 1.
Okay.
So 1 plus 1 is 2. The
Okay.
2 I'm passing to another function. So E value will be 2. 2 into 2 is 4.
Oh, okay.
You can chain it.
No, can I pass the value 2 to the next iteration? Is it possible?
See, any function I pass to the map method, you are applying for the complete collection.
Okay.
It is like that concept.
Okay.
So any function I'm passing, it is not applicable for one element. It is not that way. Any function I pass to the map, it is applicable for the entire elements of the collection.
Okay. Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. But again, I'll be explaining you all those things when I explain you Spark core.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions here? Any single question? Again, we have different variants to do this. For example, list.map, the element, can you see this? Element is of type int, right? Because we have all integers, right? Integer is equal to greater than E plus 1. You can also do this. There are different variants. All these are functions only. This is how you used to pass a function. All these variants I'll explain you. For example, if you remember, I told you can store a function in a variable, right? You can store this function in a variable, correct? And when I do this, I can simply write list.map of fn. I can also do this. I can also do this. Can you see this? It printed me the same output. So I will explain the different variants of all these things once I teach you Apache Spark. But now you have to remember, what I wanted to tell you is your Apache Spark uses Scala's collection API only. So that is what I wanted to tell you. So this map is a high order method. What is high order method? High order methods are the method which takes function as arguments and which returns functions as argument. Any of them, both condition or one condition. So those are called generally high order functions. So for this map, I'm passing a function. So any function I pass to the map, it will be applicable for every element of the collection. Is that clear? Any questions here? Okay. Vinay, go ahead.
Map is basically like an iterator which
No,
acts
it
on
is
the-
not an iterator. It is an internal implementation you're asking.
Yeah, like because since we are iterating over each element, so
That
we're
map will
applying-
do.
Okay.
That map inside implementation of this map method, it will take
Okay.
each element.
Okay.
And for each element, whatever function you have passed for the map method, it will try to
Okay.
execute that function for each element.
Okay.
So it internally iterates for each element and call that function.
Okay.
Any other questions, Vinay?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Yeah, somebody else raised hand. Yeah, Gangadhar.
Oh, sir, I have not raised hand. Okay,
I
sir,
think then you have to
lower
lower
my
your
hand.
hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Similarly, you have lots of high order methods. Like, you have map method, let's say you have filter method, for example. Let me give, just let me print, instead of storing in a variable, let me print. So what am I doing here? List dot, I'm applying a filter transformation. So what am I doing? I'm filtering for each element if, hello.
Yes, sir. We are
Okay,
getting
sir. You're there. Okay. So let me create some words. For example, I create some list of words. For example, hello, hi, how are you? Why? Some words. Okay. Some words like this. Now what I do, I want to apply some filter transformation. So in the Scala collection library, you also have a filter. So what this filter will do is, look at this, I'll just print now. So words dot filter, what this filter will do is, it will try to iterate each element of the list, and if the condition satisfies inside this filter, so I will pass a function, if it satisfies the condition. For example, can you see this? I'm doing, please observe this. If for the given element, if e dot length, if it is equal to 3, then only consider. See, if this condition satisfies, then only it will print. Correct? Now, if I execute this piece of a code here, can you see this? Only the length of each word, if it is 3, then only consider. Let's say I'm considering it as y and high, because all are 3 characters. Like this, it has a lot of high order methods. Okay, and Scala, as I told you, Apache Spark uses all these high order methods of Scala collection library. All those things we will see again once I explain you the Spark core. Is that fine? Any questions? Okay. Okay, so now what I'll do is, we will end up now. Tomorrow again we will try to connect. Okay, at the same time 9 o'clock, and I will explain some more methods of the